Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Yesterday, we had another great day of basketball highlighted by an outstanding game between the Rockets and Thunder that went into overtime. So, lots to talk about today. And we're going to start off by saying that I'm very, very happy that Luka's MRI came back without indicating any signs of serious injury. So we'll get to see him back on the court and doing his magical things very soon. Hopefully today for Game 4, but they said that he's a game time decision. So that's big for the Mavs. If he's out there, it really gives them a good shot at winning this game. And if he's not, obviously that changes a lot. So we'll see what his status is, and hopefully he's good to go for Game 4. Nick Nurse won Coach of the Year. I think he's deserving of that. He would have had my vote if I were a voter, which obviously I am not. But he deserved it, and I thought it was really, really cool the way that TNT revealed it to him by having his former coach from when he was in high school. I just thought that was super cool and kind of just something that brought a smile to my face. And, TNT just seems to do a really good job with all of this. So, kudos to them for making that a really cool award reveal. And I think it was pretty cool for Coach Nurse too. So, that was really awesome. Bucks Magic was the first game of the day. And, Fear the Deer, I'm happy to see that my Bucks were able to come away with a Game 3 victory and take a series lead 2-1. It was just a great game for the Bucks from the start. It really felt like we were in control the entire game. There were a few times in the second half where the Magic would go on short runs, but it seems like every time that happened, the Bucks had an answer and they extended the lead back up to a high double-digit number. So, I'm happy with the Bucks' performance. I think that a real key in this series has been forcing Evan Fournier off the three-point line. I know that I've complained a bit about the Bucks giving up too many open threes in the past, but this is one guy that they haven't allowed to get those open threes in this game, or in this series, I should say. And that's been a key because he's clearly the best shooter on their team. So if we're running him off the three-point line and forcing him into those mid-range length floaters, that's a good possession for us. And I think he's really struggled in this series, and anyone who's been watching can testify to that. And that's been a big key in the Bucks in limiting the Magic offense because he's usually one of their two leading scorers. I think he's the second leading scorer behind Vucevic, although he may be the leading scorer, I forget. But we've done a great job slowing him down, and that's kind of made up for all the scoring we've allowed Vucevic to have. I think he had 20 yesterday, even in a game where he didn't play especially well. So, yeah, he's going to get his numbers, but we were able to limit Fournier, and that has really helped us in this series so far. Dante DiVincenzo, I got to talk about him because he's my guy. I've said a lot of bold things about him. And yesterday he had a few crafty finishes where he put on a couple moves on the perimeter and protected the ball while getting to the rim and had some nifty finishes. And it's just plays like that that make me believe that he's got such a bright future and going to be an all-star. Obviously, he's got a super hard work ethic. He works hard, and he wants to be great. So I believe that his shooting is going to keep improving. He's already a really good defender. So I think that this guy's ceiling is pretty high. And obviously, as we've seen, if this is where he ends up in his career, he's already a really good role player. So I think the Bucks got great value for him at the 17th pick in the draft in 2018. It was a sloppy first quarter on both sides for both teams. Had a couple turnovers, but it didn't seem to last too much into the second half, although there were a few stretches of the game where it was kind of going back and forth with turnovers. The Magic really just can't stop Giannis. That's what I've seen. Maybe if they had Aaron Gordon or Jonathan Isaac, that would be different. But they don't. and there's no one on this team that can slow Giannis down. Yesterday, he didn't miss a shot in the entire first quarter, or first half. He missed his first shot in the third quarter, and if he's knocking down threes, getting to the rim effortlessly, the Bucks are going to be so hard to beat. Yesterday, he had 35 points, 11 rebounds, and 7 assists. He made 12 out of 14 shots, which is just remarkable efficiency. 2 for 3 from the three-point line, 9 for 12 from the free throw line. So, a great game from Giannis, and the Magic, if they want to steal another game in this series, they got to figure out how they can slow him down. Lopez was getting buckets again, which is something we need from him. He needs to step up and continue to be a good third or fourth option in the offense. Yesterday he had 16 and 6 on 7 for 10 shooting, 2 for 4 from the three-point line. So really good efficiency, and when he was getting open looks, he was knocking them down. And he also does a really good job of hunting mismatches. When other teams switch smaller guys onto him, he does a good job of getting in the post and putting on a couple moves. No matter how slow those moves seem to be, he's so big that they're effective. And he can be a game changer for the Bucks if he's hitting those open shots, just because the floor spacing that kind of shooting from a 5 brings. Opens it up for Giannis, opens it up for Bled, and that can be huge for the Bucks. And back to what I said about the mismatches, I think that can be big in the Heat, against the Heat, well, likely the Heat, in the second round, which I'll talk about a bit more later. Bledsoe was knocking down a couple threes yesterday. He had 2 threes, and usually he struggles from the perimeter, so it was good to see from him. He had 14 points and 8 rebounds, 5 for 9 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3. So obviously that's not a huge volume of three-point shooting, but when he's knocking those down, it just makes him even more of a lethal weapon on offense, because you're forced to contest his jumper, which is something that teams haven't had to do in the playoffs the past 2 years, which is where he struggled a bit because they're just cutting off his lanes to the rim. And when he's getting to the rim, obviously he's a very, very strong offensive player because he can just finish very well. He's a good passer, so he can find open shooters on the perimeter. And it's big for the Bucks when he's able to hit those shots, because it just opens up so much more, in a similar vein to Lopez. Middleton finally started to get going, at least a little bit yesterday. He had 17 points on 7 for 17 shooting, 3 for 7 from the three-point line. So obviously that's not his best game, but it's better than 0 for 8 or 1 for 8 or whatever it was in Game 2. So good to see him start to bounce back. Hopefully he can continue to get into a bit better rhythm through the rest of the series and be ready for Miami in the second round. Speaking of Miami, we'll move on to that Pacers Heat game right now. And what stood out to me, I was unable to watch this game because yesterday was my grandpa's birthday. Happy birthday, Pop, if you're watching this. Happy birthday. But, what stood out to me was Jimmy Butler got to the free throw line 20 times. He shot 17 for 20. And he just has so much like Kawhi in his game, where he's got that same pretty lethal mid-range shot. He gets to the free throw line. He can finish. Obviously, his shooting efficiency, when he didn't get to the line yesterday, was pretty poor. He only shot 5 for 16. But he still had 27 points and 8 rebounds, mostly on the strength of those 17 free throws were the 27 points. But he really looks like a guy that's capable of bringing this team very, very far in the playoffs. I think they can beat the Bucks. I think I've said that before. I don't know if I would pick them to do so, but I think that's going to be a very entertaining series. Brogdon went off yesterday. It just wasn't enough. He had 34 points and 14 assists. That's a monster game from Malcolm. I really wish the Bucks would have figured out a way to hang on to this guy, but it was still a great game for him. 34 and 14, 11 for 17 shooting, 4 for 7 from 3, 8 for 8 from the line. And I mean, 34 points on 17 shots, that's incredible, no matter who you are. So, for the Pacers to get that kind of production from him and still find themselves unable to win the game, that's really disappointing for me. Bam had a pretty good game yesterday, kind of bounced back after not even being able to reach 10 points in game 2. Yesterday he had 22 and 11 on 7 for 11 shooting, 8 for 9 from the free throw line. But he also had 6 turnovers, and they're going to need him to take care of the ball better against the elite teams in the Eastern Conference in order for them to be able to grab W's. So, better from him. I liked what I saw. He mostly just finished shots. It didn't look like he was creating a whole lot of offense for himself. A lot of the time it was the two-man game between him and Jimmy, where he would set the screen and Jimmy would get to the rim, and Miles Turner would help off, and he would dump it off to Bam for an easy layup or dunk. But still, good game for Bam. He did what he needed to do. Just take care of the ball a bit better, big fella, and you're going to be fine. Dragic stayed hot from the perimeter. 24 points, 8 for 17 shooting, 5 for 10 from 3. And he changes their team when he's shooting the ball like that and scoring the ball, because for him to be a 20-point scorer, that's huge. And especially against a team like the Pacers, where they play good defense, good team defense. Any guy who's stepping up and hitting shots, that's huge. Tyler Hero still looks really, really good. He hit a lot of big shots in that third quarter. Every time the Pacers kind of closed the lead down to 3 or 5, he would knock down a jumper with that smooth form that he has. Yesterday he had 20 points on 6 for 12 shooting, 3 for 6 from the three-point line, and hit all 5 of his free throws. Every time he shoots free throws, I'm blown away because of how effortless his form looks. It's beautiful. Beautiful to watch him shoot. And he looks good. He's going to be a difference maker in this Bucks series. And as you can see, I'm a Bucks fan. But I'm nervous. Finally, Miles Turner did a good job protecting the rim. He stuffed Bam a couple times, which was exciting. But, yeah. Sorry about that. We had a big rain last night, so the bugs are pretty bad today. So I apologize for that bit of choppiness right there. But in the Bucks Heat series, I guess I can talk about that a little bit now, because it's starting to become increasingly clear that those are going to be the two teams matching up in the Eastern Conference semifinals on one end with the Raptors Celtics on the other end. But maybe I'll talk about that series tomorrow, since those teams are both likely to advance tomorrow. But it starts with Giannis. It has to, because he's the best player in the series. So what are the Heat going to do to slow him down? I remember watching these two teams match up during the regular season, and Bam did a pretty good job on him. But the starting lineup they've been running out lately is Dragic at the 1, Duncan Robinson at the 2, Jimmy at the 3, Jay Crowder at the 4, and Bam at the 5. So are you going to put Jay Crowder on Brook Lopez? Probably not. I don't think so. So, because if you do, like I said, Lopez is really good at taking advantage of small guys on him. You would know if you watch the Bucks game against the Rockets in the seeding games. He's good at hunting out those matchups and finishing open looks from close to the rim. So, if they've got Jay Crowder guarding him for the entire series, that's going to be big for Lopez, and he's going to have a shot to have a few huge games. So, do they throw Olynyk or Miles Leonard back into the starting lineup just to have a little more size? I'd say probably not. I think they just say, we're putting Bam on Lopez, and Jimmy Butler and Jay Crowder can take care of business guarding Giannis. I think that Bam is the best matchup for Giannis, because in the past, it seems like big guys such as Al Horford, and I think Bam is a similar defender to what Al Horford was in his prime. So if we can see, so I think Bam is the best matchup that he'd have for Giannis, but I also think that Butler is definitely capable, and so is Jay Crowder, capable of guarding Giannis Antetokounmpo, of course. And when I say guarding, I don't mean stopping because that's a virtually impossible task. Giannis is going to get his buckets, but if you can slow him down and keep him out of the paint, and especially force him to shoot free throws, because as we saw yesterday, he airballed one. That can be huge, and all you have to do is slow him down a little bit, get him out of his rhythm, and maybe you can make him angry. And when Giannis plays angry, it seems like he forces things, and yeah, that's an important aspect of the series. I think another important aspect is the point guard matchup, Dragic versus Bledsoe. These two guys are virtually opposites, and I think that whoever wins that point guard matchup um, will give their team a huge advantage. I think I like Bledsoe a little bit more because of his physicality on defense. I think that he'll do a good job guarding Dragic, but it'll be fun to see what happens. I can't wait for that series. I think it's going to go to 7 games, and it's going to be a lot of really fun ones. Thunder Rockets was the third game yesterday. I only really saw the second half and overtime. I saw the very end of the first half, but Lou Dort is doing great on James Harden. Ever since he came back in game 2, the past 2 games, Harden has struggled to hit shots. And Lou Dort is an exceptional individual defender. He's a good team defender as well. And like Dorsberg said, this guy's going to get paid once he hits the free agent market. I love watching these undrafted free agent type guys perform because they play with a chip on their shoulder. They play hard the entire game, and they're very, very fun. They make hustle plays. The only problem with Lou Dort is he was being dared to shoot yesterday. And I think a way that he can kind of get around that instead of just taking the open look is get some secondary penetration. So off the catch, you go to the rim now, and they'll have to help off onto you, and you can find your teammate for open look, someone like SGA or Gallinari who shoots a higher 3-point percentage than you. Maybe it's Steven Adams is open, you can dump it off to him for a slam dunk. So I think that's what Lou Dort has to do instead of taking the 3-point shot because his jumper did not look good yesterday. So secondary penetration, Lou Dort. The Rockets' team defense looked pretty good. They had a game plan, which was allow the least lethal shooter on the court to get open looks, and Lou Dort was not knocking them down. So the way they collapsed on Shea, on Chris Paul, it looked good, and they played good team defense. They help over well, and I think that's really important for them because they don't have one super great stopper. I guess that guy would be Robert Covington, and he has not been playing big minutes at all. And I think that is just something that comes with how well Jeff Green has played because he has changed this series. Yesterday he had 22 points on 8 for 13 shooting, 5 for 8 from 3, and it seems like all 3 games he's been huge for them. And here, one sec. So I just kind of looked through my notes from the last couple days to see if I had any stats written down from Jeff Green's last games, and I didn't, other than that he played 37 minutes in Game 2. So he keeps playing big minutes for them, keeps getting buckets, and he's changing the series positively for the Rockets. And it wouldn't surprise me to see him inserted back into the starting lineup over Covington, because Covington has not looked as effective as Jeff Green. So next thing I want to talk about is the Chris Paul James Harden call, the foul call at the end of the fourth quarter. I think that the refs got it right. Harden, as much as it bugs me that Harden was just able to sucker him into that foul, I think they got it right. I don't think there was any other call they could have made. So, it bugs me that Harden gets every call from the officials, but in that case, I think it was the correct one. And did Steven Adams tip the inbounds pass? I don't know. It was so hard to tell. So I think that the refs got both of those big calls at the end of the fourth quarter correct. And the Chris Paul armbar or whatever, maybe he did push off a little bit, but D'Antoni went overboard, and the game was pretty much over at that point. The Thunder had a a 2 or 3 possession lead at that time, and it just didn't change the game at all. So I think D'Antoni was a bit of a baby over that. Shea hit that huge shot with 13 seconds left, and he had a really big game for the Rockets. The Thunder, excuse me. 23 points, 9 for 18 shooting, 3 for 7 from 3, and he played 48 minutes, including overtime. So 43 in the regular game, the first 4 quarters. And that's really big for them because he's their future, and it's great to see them getting a lot of playoff production from him. And if he's a secondary star for them, it changes their shot in this series against the Rockets, because obviously the Rockets probably have the 2 best players in the series in Harden, and once Westbrook returns. But if Shea is playing this well, it's going to help out the Thunder a lot, because they need guys to get buckets. And Shea has that potential to be a secondary playmaker. Well, eventually he'll be a primary playmaker, but right now, if they can get this kind of play out of him, that's huge. Lakers-Blazers last game of the day, my personal favorite series, even after the Game 2 destruction that came at the hands of the Lakers. Hassan Whiteside started. I think that was mostly just because of the Collins injury news, so they knew Terry Stotts knew that Whiteside would not be coming off the bench, or would not be coming off the bench to once Collins came back, because he's not coming back. So might as well just put your 5 best guys out there to start. And I think it was a good choice, because the Blazers got off to good starts in to both halves, and that's what you want to see from your starting lineup. So good choice by Terry Stotts. Dame's hand did not seem to be affecting him. He had 34 points on 8 for 20 shooting, 5 for 3 from the 3-point line, and he got to the line 14 times, knocked down 13 of those free throws. So big game from Dame. What else are you expecting? I mean, even with this thumb injury, didn't change him one bit. Still just as aggressive. And he even seemed to have a couple nice lefty finishes at the rim. So, yeah, I don't think that his thumb impacted them at all. They just looked tired. Nurkic especially yesterday. He looked weak going to the rim. Settled for a bunch of floaters and push layups. Not the kind of strong finishes they need from him. And it seemed like he was forcing it a bit too. So, need a bit more from Nurkic. He's their 3rd best player, or at least he should be. Yesterday it was Melo for certain, but the Lakers struggled with free throws. 80 shot 7 for 14. The team only shot 65% from the line, and I think that is a big deal, because later in the playoffs they're going to need to be knocking down free throws, and as we saw in Game 1, if they're not hitting clutch free throws, they're not going to win. So, and I don't think they have one guy who you can really count on to hit free throws down the stretch, because LeBron has struggled in the past, AD has struggled, and I mean, I guess Danny Green you can trust, but the ball's much more likely to be in the hands of one of their 2 superstars than in Danny Green or KCP's hands. So, yeah, that is not a good development for the Lakers. They need to start knocking down their free throws. Melo's back. He in that second half, he went on that huge run, and I was so pumped. I was like, let's go. Melo's back. As an ISO scorer, as a catch and shoot guy, he can put the ball in the basket, and that's what the Blazers need from him. They need him to be that 3rd scorer on the perimeter, and he's perfect and above average in that role even. So if he keeps playing this well, the Blazers still have a chance. I'm not counting them out yet. They need more steady play from Nurkic, like I said, but this series, that was a very, very close game, and it's only 2-1. Like Dame said, each win only counts as 1 win. So, with Melo playing this well, that's huge. No one on the Blazers can guard LeBron, though. Actually, I shouldn't even say that. Melo did a pretty good job on him, but when Melo's out of the game, LeBron needs to go crazy, because Gary Trent just simply is not strong enough to stay on him. Braun had 38, 12, and 8 yesterday, And it's about time he takes over this series because he's the best player on the court, and he has to show it. Dame looks like the best player on the court. At least in Game 1 he did. Game 2 he was injured. AD probably was the best player on the court, but it's LeBron's time. And he needs to shoulder a bigger load for this team offensively. Especially after that Game 2, he struggled. Only 10 points. So it was good to see him bounce back. I think Dame and CJ are the best backcourt in basketball. At least for this season. The Splash Brothers... But Clay's going to be coming off an injury, so maybe next year they will be too. Yesterday they combined for 62, 13, and 11. I mean, you can't argue with results like that, especially in a playoff game. These brothers are special, and especially Dame. I mean, he's just carrying this team, and it's so special to see. And CJ, that's special too, because he's got that back injury, and he's fighting through it. Last thing, Anthony Davis and LeBron James walking down the court on that fast break. Very bad look for the Lakers. Can't have your two superstars looking that lazy and like they don't care. I know that it might be blowing this out of proportion and making a big deal out of nothing, but I view this as, I mean, come on, guys. I get that it was the fourth quarter and it had been a long game, but just it can't be looking like that, especially because Dame played 43 minutes and he was the first guy down the court. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching this game, watching this video. Excuse me. I hope you enjoyed, and I haven't said this yet because I don't really want to beg, but drop a like and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me to see some numbers going up. I guess it doesn't matter too much because I'm just doing this for fun, but excuse me. Yeah, looking forward to another great day of basketball. We might see some eliminations today, and I can't wait to see how the Nuggets bounce back against the Jazz. The Clippers, Mavs, hopefully Luka's good to go, and yeah, it's going to be a great day of basketball. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you again very soon.